And Ika is the only solution today that has a zero trust option, right? Where the user holds a user share and nothing happens without the user, and still allows interoperability, but in a way that is completely zero trust. The way that we're thinking about it is Ika is going to power both in the short and medium term better infrastructure for the existing designs, but in the long term will also allow for new designs to emerge and perhaps be the new standard of how interoperability works.
At the end of the day, Web3, it's a technical space. You need to have innovation. Why Ethereum succeeded? Because you had smart contract that you didn't have with Bitcoin. And why Solana succeeded? Because of the performance of Ethereum, right? So this is when we decided to bet on 3. We can't share it yet, but it's going to be super exciting. It's going to change some of the things that we have been doing in Web3 and crypto. And also it is going to bring new users, new builders, new people to Web3.
Today we have Omer and David from Ika Protocol, and a lot happened since Ika went into Mainnet. The RFP program, the ecosystem is expanding, all that. So today the main goal is to cover all that, plus cover also Ika from a technical perspective. So both of you, welcome to Just the Metrics podcast.
Thank you very much, Suraj.
Thank you, Suraj, for having us.
Yeah, great. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know both of you are really busy. So how are you doing?
I mean, I can say it's for me, it's been a roller coaster. Obviously, we've been working for over 3 years to just get the tech out there to the market, and then having it live, having real people building, testing it out, working on pretty exciting products. It's it's exciting, and it is a roller coaster, and not even talking about everything that's going on in the market, regardless, which is probably one of the craziest times in the history of crypto. But yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I have to say that it's exciting time. I know that we launched and then some stuff happened, and the crypto space is changing all the time. So you don't really know what to anticipate. So always you try to figure out what's now, what it's going to be right now. But I have to say that in general, like, we're doing the same thing, right? It's not like anything changed. Like, we have the company, we have the team, the cryptographers, the engineering, everybody's working on the same stuff, right? Working on improvements, working on new breakthroughs, and so far we achieved a lot, right? That we just launched, but we have so many achievements that we will share soon. So I think for Ika, we see it as a long journey, but it's going to be a super exciting journey.
Amazing. In the SWE ecosystem, people know both of you guys, but in general, people who don't know David and Omer, could you give a basic introduction?
Yeah, so I am Omer Sadika. My background is cybersecurity, coming from a national level cybersecurity. Also in the past, I had a space that I started in Web2 cybersecurity called API Security, and the first company in that space called Salt Security, which is a unicorn today. And so I'm very technical, and I'm really focused on the cryptography side, the engineering side, and to bring new stuff to the space, to crypto.
Amazing.
And I'm David. I'm Omer's co-founder. We're 3 co-founders. Our third co-founder is Jonathan. He's the CTO. I've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years now. I've done mostly work in deep tech, so cybersecurity, AI, deep tech categories, but also a few other things that were in different areas, like cultural learning. I've always been interested in crypto personally, but D-Wallet Labs, which is our company, and Ika is the first project I've been working on as a founder. And we started working early 22, doing a lot of research. It was 2 years of mainly research, creating new types of cryptography in order to solve these very serious problems that we wanted to solve. Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, amazing. Maybe one of the stories that was never told before is how all of your team came together. From I would love to have perspective from both of you, like coming from a cybersecurity background, especially working for like a country level project and all that. Why come to Web3 and build here? Because it's a extremely difficult space. It's a lot of it's a painful thing to do. So could you tell the origin story of Ika from that perspective?
Yeah, I think the way to look on that is, it's not just from the perspective of our experience, right, and the expertise and what we know. It's also from the way that we think about the future. And I think it's not just me, it's David, it's also Jonathan, it's the full team. We all believe that the future is going to be decentralized, right? In one way or another, right? This is the future. We believe that crypto and Web3 are going to change the world, right? And the way that we look on that is, look, we have our own expertise, which is cybersecurity. We're experts in cryptography. We know how to do stuff that most people don't know in the world, right? I think that if you try to put like the number of cryptographers in the world that can do real stuff in crypto, in Web3, you have probably less than a few hundred, right? Around this number. And we have a team with a large percentage out of it, right? And we're talking about worldwide. So what we can do, what we can bring to the table, it's at least 1,000 times more than what we can do in Web 2, right? I've been to Web 2. I know how to build cybersecurity product, how to sell them, and how to build large companies. But I think our goal is not just to build another successful company. It's to build something that is really going to change the world, and it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, and I'll add to what Omer said, that all the three of us, me, Omer, and Jonathan, we were all really interested and involved in crypto on a personal level, but we haven't found a problem that was exciting enough for us to work on. And that kind of changed late 2001, early 2021, early 2022, when we realized that the future of crypto is going to be very, very fragmented, and a lot of players will come in from traditional finance or fintech and start their own networks. And this problem of fragmentation and of a multi-chain world will just become worse and worse. And we realized that all of the solutions that were available then and still available today until Ika, so bridges and creating these fragmented ecosystems with layer twos, like all of these solutions are just not good solutions. They're all patches. So we figured this would be a really important and big problem to solve, and one that we wanted to solve and tackle. So adding to what Omer said, this was kind of the vision that brought us together. I think now it's kind of materializing. You're seeing that this thesis is actually coming true, and Ika is right on time, actually poised to really bring a real solution to the market to this very, very big problem.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And keeping that background, could you describe like what is Ika in one sentence?
So I think I can take a stab at it. It is a challenge, and we're constantly trying to explain it in better ways so people understand. But at the end of the day, Ika is very, very low level infrastructure. So it's a bit hard to explain exactly what Ika is. But essentially, what we did is we created the first system for zero trust interoperability and zero trust access control in Web3. So you have, if you think about Web 2, you have access control built in basically everything that you do, right? You have permissions and you have passwords, and you have different types of recovery, and all of those things are kind of baked in everything you do. And you do have kind of a very high level of expectations in Web 2 for access controls. And in Web 3, that is very lacking today. And it's not a coincidence that it's lacking. It's actually because of the architecture of Web 3 that really prioritizes ownership, prioritizes decentralization, prioritizes zero trust. You don't have to trust anyone. That makes access control very, very complicated. And there simply weren't the cryptographic primitives in order to allow people to have real access control, but still keep all of the basic tenets of crypto, which is ownership and decentralization and zero trust. And that's why we had to create new cryptography. And Ika is, now going back to actually what Ika is a network of distributed signers that, together with the user, can create accounts and sign messages for these accounts, sign transactions for these accounts in a way that wasn't possible before. And that allowed us to create a new primitive, which is a much easier way to explain what Ika is, which is a D-wallet. And a D-wallet is a decentralized wallet. Today, when you think about a wallet, you think about, hardware like a ledger, or you think about your browser extension wallet. But with Ika, you can create a decentralized wallet, an account that has an address on any chain, and you can generate transactions and you can control assets on those accounts on other chains together with a decentralized network. And that primitive can be used in smart contracts. So a smart contract can now control assets on other chains, and a smart contract can do things between assets on different chains, like DeFi or custody or anything else. So this is kind of a new, just like you had this new primitive, a smart contract. I'm sure it was very hard to explain Ethereum in one sentence before everyone knew what a smart contract is.
Exactly,
So it's just like you have dApps, decentralized applications, you now have this new primitive of a decentralized wallet that can be used in different applications in order to do things that you couldn't do before.
Yeah.
I want to add to that last week I chatted with one of the CEOs of one of the largest crypto companies that everybody knows, and he asked me like, "What is Ika? What you do?" And the way that I explain it, and I feel like it's a very simple way to explain it. It doesn't covers everything, but it's very simplification of what it is. So you can think about it as a decentralized version of Fireblocks, right? And Fireblocks, it's custody. So you as the user, together with Fireblocks, and then only together you can sign. So you can replace Fireblocks with Ika, and now you have a decentralized network, right? So instead of relying on one centralized party, you can rely on a decentralized configuration, which is completely different. Beside that, and I think this is the important part, it's that it's all programmable, right? So it's not just a solution, right? It's not a custody product that you just use. You can write smart contract on Sui that controls how you access those accounts on different chains. And this is how you can build all of those different projects, all of those different solutions. And I have to say that today you have many companies, many solutions that were using many centralized solutions, like many of the, for example, solutions for stablecoins, right? Or many of the RWA solutions, or many of the exchanges under the hood, they're using Fireblocks, right? Or they're using one of their competitors. Here, it's the first time where we can change that, right? When we can do it without having the centralized component, right? Where we can replace that with the completely decentralized component, completely decentralized environment, where we don't have to put the trust assumptions on Fireblocks, right? On a third party. We have a decentralized network. And if you think about what is Web3, what is crypto, so this is the exact values, right? This is what we want to have, and not this centralized configuration.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example. And I think a lot of people go in on do a deep dive on what Ika is. Some of them see Ika as something similar to LayerZero or Wormhole or stuff like that. So in that perspective, how does these like interoperability protocol or chain abstraction protocol are different from Ika, or how Ika is different from them?
I can give maybe the technical explanation, and I think David can add more of the product side and the way to think about it. So first of all, you can think about it from the security perspective, where you have the zero trust capabilities, right? Where you have the user participating. Also, you have the performance, where you can have thousands of signatures per second, where you can have a very low latency, right? Stuff that you don't have in other solution. But I think also is that Ika is an infrastructure, right? So you can use that, you can leverage this primitive, this default primitive, to build chain abstraction, right? Or to build L2 BTC, right? Programmable BTC. And this is the different way that we're thinking about it, right? We said we're not going to build the next chain abstraction solution only, or the next programmable BTC. We're going to build the infrastructure where you can build all of those solutions on top, right? So I think this is a very different way to think about it. By the way, we've been approached by a few of the top very known interoperability solutions, cross-chain messaging, many of those, and it's not all of them, but I will say almost all of them wants to leverage Ika, and we're having conversations about doing that, because at the end of the day, they know that what they have in terms of the product is really good, but from the technology perspective, from security perspective, from cryptography perspective, is not good enough, especially when you also want to have a very easy, good, and secure access to BTC, right? Where they don't have those solutions at all.
Yeah, and I'll maybe just add to that, that, we wanted to design Ika as the most flexible infrastructure possible. So we do have, and Ika is the only solution today that has a zero trust option, right? Where the user holds a user share and nothing happens without the user, and it still allows interoperability, but in a way that is completely zero trust. But that also requires building a new type of protocol, because protocols are not, because this is the first solution to allow this, there are no protocol designs that are geared towards a zero trust solution. So there are builders that are building the first protocols, and this will probably evolve over the next few years. But the architecture that people have today in interoperability is based on non-zero trust, right? On some sort of centralized, or maybe a federation, right, of parties that you need to trust, and they kind of issue a derivative, a wrap token, or something like that, right? Some sort of bridge. And you can still use Ika's infrastructure to build something like that, but it will be way more decentralized. It'll be way more performant, the latency, the throughput, everything. And these are problems that these bridges, beyond the very obvious security issue, right, and trust issue, they also have performance issues. They also have decentralization issues. So this is something that, as Omer said, they're very interested in leveraging. But I think the way that we're thinking about it is Ika is going to power both in the short and medium term, better infrastructure for the existing designs, but in the long term will also allow for new designs to emerge and perhaps be the new standard of how interoperability works.
Yeah, I can just give you a small example. We have for ECDSA signatures, we had a network today of around 100 validators. Just compare it to to Near, compare it to ICP, compare it to any of those solutions, it's not even close, right? I think the top one is around 20, right?
I think ICP reach around 30, but that's kind of
But those are the numbers, right? And in our case, it's around 100, and it's not the limit, right? We just started. It can be even 200, 300, 400, right? So it's much more decentralized from the first day, with better performance.
Yeah, and here is where the SUI factor comes in, right? So I think when you talk about Ika, you also have to talk about SUI in that sense. So could you explain how Ika is leveraging SUI, or like the technology from the SUI stack and all that?
Yeah, this is really confusing. I think like people always trying to figure it out and they don't get it. Like they look on our code base and then they say, oh, it's a SUI fork, but you're using SUI, like how it makes sense. So maybe I'll try to explain it, once and for all. And to make it very simple, so we do fork SWI, right? So Ika started as a SWI fork, but only for very specific part of SWI, which is the consensus, right? So we need the consensus between the validators because they have to agree on the MPC messages. We had to implement MPC protocol, which is our MPC, 2PC MPC, on top of the network. So we're using Mysticity, which we believe is the best consensus that exists today, right? You have the best performance. And also it was important for us because we have the fastest MPC. So also we wanted to have the fastest consensus. So at the end of the day, we get the best results, right? Because if you have amazing MPC, but then you're using consensus, like Ethereum's consensus that takes, I don't know, like 9 minutes for origin finality, it will take forever to run the MPC, right? It doesn't matter how amazing the MPC is. So this is why we decided to take even Cosmos, by the way, even if you think about Cosmos, right, where you can have the Cosmos SDK, still you have like 4 or 5 seconds for finality, which in our case, it just makes no sense, right? So this is the first part, and this is how the network of Ika operates, right? But the network of Ika is not L1, right? You don't have smart contracts. You don't even have an internal state, right? It's all run on SWI. And that part is very similar to Loros, right? So everything is managed on top of SWI. So the validator set, the place where you stake, right? Where you get rewards, the token, and where you submit requests, right? So for example, if you want to create a new wallet, you do it from SWI. If you want to sign a transaction, you do it from SWI. If you want to write a smart contract, you write a SWI smart contract, and you just integrate with the Ika protocol on SWI. And this is basically the way that it works, right? So we have our own network for the MPC, we're leveraging consensus with Mysticity, and then the read and write and the state, it all lives on SWI.
So basically, all this signing activity is something happening off chain, and like in the case of all the storage, it's being coordinated using SWI. The signing activities are that kind of consensus, and the rest of the coordination happens using SWI.
Yeah, you can think about it as a signature network. I think I won't call it off-chain because, it's a decentralized network, the same as SWI, right? So it's not exactly off-chain, but it's not exactly on switch, right? So It's something in the middle, because at the end of the day, the MPC, for that, we need like the consensus, and we need like a very fast and very simple communication between the validators. So we need to have, they need to have their own communication channel.
I'll just add to it because it is interesting, and this is maybe a bit too deep on the technical side, but I do think it is an interesting thing to mention, just because you did mention off-chain and on-chain. So MPC, of course, is an off-chain activity just because there are secrets, right? So you can't use your secret on-chain because then it will be visible, and you kind of ruin the security behind the MPC. But what we did do with our with 2PC MPC is that we designed it to be publicly verifiable. So it's all of the MPC protocols, so the communication between the MPC parties, all of the parties, is all public, and it is all verifiable. And as Omer said, it all coordinates on SWI. So you can actually go and read and verify that the entire MPC process between the operators was done according to the protocol. It's all public and it's all verifiable, which is a very, very important part if you do want to have the MPC not in like this black box, centralized server, but on a chain of decentralized signers.
Yes. And all of these other blockchains, you can think of, they have their own trust boundaries, and Ika is a protocol that helps you to coordinate things between these trust boundaries without having any centralized intermediaries. And 2 months back, the mainnet happened. So how was it to build something for a couple of years and finally go to mainnet? Tell me about how that experience was. And as a team, it's a huge achievement for you guys. So how was it?
I can say in my side, because I think David has more to say about it. But I think, first of all, we're very technical. So for us, it was like mostly about that. And then for Mainnet, you have to do stuff that we're like really why we have to spend time on those stuff. But this is what you have to do, right? When you have a project, when you have to go live with Mainnet, and then there are certain things that you have to get ready and you have to be prepared. So sometimes you think, okay, we worked, on breakthroughs, stuff that's going to change the world, right? Orders of magnitude. And then we have to switch to some stupid stuff because we need to go out with Mainnet. But this is what it is. I have to say that, the Mainnet day, I think we had some mistake that we did before, and that was to not to do the testnet and the Mainnet the same way, right? So for the testnet, we said, okay, we can be relaxed. We can take a few days to do it, right? So we have around 100 validators, so it's very complex, right? So it requires a lot of work, so we can take the time. And with Mainnet, we have to do everything on the same day, and that was a huge headache, and we had mistakes, and the validators needs to stay live with us for, I don't know, for 12 hours, something like that, 10 hours. Some of them told us, like, look, it's too late, we need to go to sleep, right? We have work tomorrow. But we managed to do that. And from that experience, I have to say, like, always make sure that testnet and mainnet, like the process of launching them is exactly the same, right? Even if you think that there is no reason to do that, because it doesn't matter. It matters because there are stuff that you don't even think about, right? Which are not connected even to you personally, right? If you have to do something and it's a third party, and then it takes 3 hours for the third party to do, you don't control it, right? So just make sure that you take the same path. You try to simulate a real mainnet launch. Since then, it was pretty good, right? Everything was working pretty good. And yeah, I can let David tell his side, because he focused a lot of that, right? More than we did on the technical side.
Yeah, and I think that Mainnet was it was very stressful kind of day, or more than one day actually, leading up to the launch, and there are different components of it that not everyone is super aware of. I mean, for most people, when they think of Mainnet launch, it was like the moment tokens are available publicly on the market, right? That's when people, but there's a lot, because we actually have, a network of signers that needs to go live, and the product needs to be live, and all of that kind of needs to happen at the same time, when tokens are publicly available for people. It was a lot of kind of loose ends, and up until like right before, there were so many things that still haven't been 100% verified, and yeah, from what I've heard, this is kind of a typical experience, but it was very stressful. And one of the interesting things in blockchain is that the moment you do something, it is there forever. Like, there's no going back. I mean, you can maybe do upgrades or things like that, but it's you have to make sure everything is 100%, right? Otherwise, you could be in big trouble. So, yeah, it was very stressful. I think we haven't slept for 2 weeks, like leading up to Mainnet. And there were a few kind of curveballs during the launch itself that we had to deal with. But overall, I think we're pretty happy, both with the launch and also with the kind of reception and reaction of the community. Even until today, we're now 2.5 months in. I think we see a pretty steady and even increasing enthusiasm and excitement from the community, which is a lot, considering the market has been very, very turbulent. But people are excited. People are constantly asking us and asking builders who are building on Ika when they can start using products, which is great. Where by the time this podcast is live, we will have the mainnet tasks already live that people are very excited about and want to start participating. So yeah, it's been great.
And one of the factors that really influenced spreading the word about Ika was the kind of marketing that Ika did. It was very unlike of like a deep technical project, because if you look at what Ika is, so it was a good combination where you can tell the story, like give incentive to people to dig into this without study to PCMPC or something like that. Could you take a moment and tell the story of the kind of marketing that, how did that happen?
Yeah, maybe we can start from what we did wrong, right? I think we where we started, we focused mostly on the technical side, almost only, I have to say. And the marketing side, we said, okay, look, it's going to, it doesn't matter, we're going to build something so crazy. Who cares about marketing? And we were completely wrong, right? You should care about marketing. And we started that with a different name. It was the Wallet Network, which also was very confusing because people said the wallet, so we are building your wallet, and everybody thought that what we're building is a new wallet. So for sure, it was the wrong name and the wrong marketing. And we spent a lot of time like that. I think most of the time of the project, right, when we started, but we really focused on the technical side, right? And then when we started working on, going live on Mainnet, right, it was, I think, over a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago. We started the company in 22, right? So for over 2 years, we just spent time on technical side and a little bit on wrong marketing. Then we said, okay, we have to launch Mainnet, but people don't know what we do. We need to do something. And then when we had the switch, and I think David can share what we did differently after that.
Yeah, as Omer said, we were focused mostly on the technical side. And when we did put out content or do any sort of marketing, it was really around cryptography and cybersecurity and really digging into the innovations and the technical details, which for us were very interesting. And we still think it's very important, but it's really hard to rally a community and rally people around an idea if they need to do a PhD before they can even understand what we're doing. So this kind of shifted, as Omer said, when we were gearing up towards launch. We were also, as part of our design choices, we decided that we're going to run everything on SUI and coordinate on SUI. So we were starting to get into the SUI ecosystem, and everyone who knows Ika in SUI also knows Illumi, which was a big part of kind of shaping our marketing strategy. And essentially, Illumi came to us and he said, look, I think what we should do is we should be a deep tech project that just has the marketing of a meme coin. That was the pitch. We basically told them, go for it. Let's see if it works. And it works pretty spectacularly. I think Ika created a lot of excitement around it. And it's the kind of excitement that people got excited because of the vibes and because of, it looked cool. And then they learned about Ika and they got even more excited, right? So instead of the earlier approach, which was wrong, which was saying, we're going to really tell you why you should be excited and then you'll be excited, you need to actually first be excited. And then you kind of explain to yourself and you have more motivation to learn why is this exciting. So I think this is, this was a really good shift that we had that allowed a lot of people to get more involved, get more excited about Ika. We now have people in the SUI ecosystem that are just creating content around cryptography, around security on their own, just because they are excited about Ika and they want to, spread the word. Which is pretty cool. This was not on our big go cards a year ago, so I think this was something really unique that we were able to strike here.
Yeah, basically that marketing acted as a funnel to bring in people, and then they discovered it, then they got excited. And Ika has a pretty impressive community. It's huge, and you can see a lot of projects like Native or Holonym or Aeon, Full Sail. There are a lot of projects building on Ika before even Mainnet. Plus, you guys also kicked off an RFP program. So maybe it would be the right time to dive into the RFP program. What is it? What is the scope of it? And all that. Could you break down that?
I want to say something. I'll let David answer that because I think he can give you a better answer for that. But about what you said, right? We have many builders, and I get a lot of questions from people like why you have so many projects and they're not live yet, why they're not live on Mainnet yet, like what's going on. And I think people need to understand, right? When you build new primitive, right, new infrastructure, something new, it's not that easy for builders to just build it, right? So it's not like if you have a new L2, everybody can just take the smart contract for Ethereum and put it in their new L2, right? It takes like 5 minutes, right? You don't have to build anything from scratch, anything new, any innovation. Here, because you have new primitive, right? You have new type of way of thinking, new infrastructure, then you have to start from the beginning, right? So you have to design your solution, you have to design your product with a different way of thinking about how to build it and how to do it. And this is also why we have the RFPs, right? Because we also want to let people to help them how to think about it, right? What you can do with that. So I think the RFPs are just the beginning, and from that we'll see many type of solutions that we haven't thought about as part of the RFPs.
Yeah, and to add to that, before I go into the RFP program and talk a bit about that, a lot of the builders, especially the ones who are have been working with us for a while, are builders who are thinking very, very big, and they're builders who have like very, very ambitious ideas and ambitious projects, and they're doing things that are very complex. So it does make sense that it takes a much longer time for them to go live, right? If you are dealing with native Bitcoin is super complex, especially because it's, you know, we can think about it in the Web3 terms. It's kind of a legacy network. So there's a lot of complexities there of bringing that and making it possible to interact with it in a much more modern network. If you mentioned Human Tech, Holonym, right, that are building a new type of infrastructure, wallet as a protocol that is really reimagining how custody can work. These are very, very complex and ambitious projects, and these things take time. One of the reasons that we published the RFP is to help people imagine the type of things that you can do with this D-wallet primitive with Ika, but also kind of give very concrete directions and very concrete avenues on how to start working with Ika, how to get support from us on things that we think are interesting. We actually had over 20 different ideas for the RFP that we cut down. I think we launched with around 12, but we have more coming, and we are excited to get more ideas from the community of builders that is starting to form around Ika. There's, for example, Legacy Link, who have a really interesting idea around estate management, around being able to build trustless inheritance using D-Wallet tech, which is a super cool idea, right? And these are the things that people are starting to come up with. But the RFP is a way to kickstart that, right? And to show each and every idea or request for proposals in the RFP program is a very a very unique opportunity, a very unique use case that is actually not possible in a very generic and universal way without using Ika. So that's why we felt that it is important to have these things out there. We're also in the process of publishing. We're going to publish very soon a few kind of basic examples that will also help people get up and running really quick as builders. And I think going back and taking a step back, the really important thing to remember about Ika is that it is low-level infrastructure meant for developers. And the first developers on Ika will have to do a lot of, novel design work, just like the first developers on smart contracts, because you now have a new primitive that you need to start designing around. You need to start playing around with. You need to start figuring out. So although we understand how anxious people are to get their hands and to start using the tech, But these things take time, especially if you have very ambitious and very big projects that are building.
And how can people participate in this RFP program I have seen some examples here how you mentioned the RFP program. What would you like to see in the RFP program?
So there is a very easy way to submit a proposal on the RFP. If you go into the RFP link, then you'll see all the different projects, ideas, and then you can submit. You can choose which product you want to submit for, and you can submit your proposal. We ask you to tell us a bit about the team, about your plan, about the milestone, about the type of support that you will require. We've already had quite a few submissions that are very interesting, and we're keeping the RFPs open on a rolling basis. We're going to have, there's a process. There's in crypto, you know how it is. There's a foundation and there's a process, and all these things obviously take time, but we're going to have that done for a lot of the proposals that already kind of came in, and we're keeping it open until we are able to find and to match the kind of support to a specific team for a specific idea. We're even not excluding the idea of having multiple teams working on the same type of project, just because a lot of these will probably have multiple players, right? If we're talking, if you're talking about DeFi, for example, it's not like you have one DEX, one lending protocol, right? You have multiple ones, and they all focus on different segments or different user experiences. So we're really waiting to get more and more submissions for the RFP, and to get those builders onboarded into our builder groups and get them the support that they need, both on the resources side, but also on helping them build, helping them understand Ika, helping them design their products, and getting them live.
And coming back to one of the initial topics, if you look at the whole smart contract platform base in the whole of crypto, maybe 95% is some version of EVM. So once I read a tweet from you saying that one of the VCs told you to build on EVM, but you went, you as a team, you decided to build on the Sui stack, which is still a small niche compared to the rest of the ecosystem. So why did you bet so big Sui as a team?
I'll let Omer, by the way, talk about maybe the technical side of this. But it is important for me to say that, in Web3, people get tunnel vision. The amount of developers in Web3 I'm pretty sure it's less than the developers that Facebook employs, right? So there aren't a lot of developers now, right? When we say this is a small niche, everything is a tiny niche right now, right? Like there are no developers in Web3 if you're looking at the total developers in the world. And the fact, EVM is a tiny niche, and Move is a tiny niche, and it doesn't matter, right? Like what matters is what is the best stack, and what is the most secure, the most future-proof, right? Where we believe that people should be building. And, these things evolve constantly, not just in Web3, right? Also in Web2. And technologies should evolve, right? Like you can, just because people used to code in a certain language in, I don't know, when people did mainframes on banks, doesn't mean that this is what people should still be doing, 30, 40 years later when there's cloud. So I think that's kind of the overall thinking, that we should understand that, just because right now 95% is using EVM, this 95% is still less than 1% of the potential of what Web3 is actually going to be. So that's kind of the broader perspective. And I'll let Omer talk about the specific technicalities of why we chose Sui.
You have to say that when we looked on the different options, it was even before we knew, the different communities, like for us, it wasn't even important. We didn't care about it. We cared about the technology, and we also cared, what's going to be the next big thing, right? And we looked on, I think, all the different options that were there, that, if it was Aptos, if it was Monad, if like really any type of new design, Cosmos, like whatever you can think of, right, as the next potential L1. And it took us, I don't know, like 2 weeks to say, okay, it's going to be 3. Like it's clear, right? And when we did it, it was before, today, like I think you have Solana, and after Solana you have 3, right? So people are saying 3 is going to be the next Solana, the next Ethereum, right? It's easy to say that today, right? But when we started, it was before that, right? And 3 wasn't, the known as the next thing. But we looked on the tech, we said, okay, those guys knows what they're doing. At the end of the day, Web3, it's a technical space, right? It's really about cryptography. You need to have innovation. You can have amazing community, but if you have no innovation, if your product does nothing new, then it won't succeed at the end of the day, right? Even if you think about Ethereum, right? Why Ethereum succeeded? Because you had smart contract that you didn't have with Bitcoin. And why Solana succeeded? Because of the performance of Ethereum, right? You need to have a technical reason at the end of the day. So it's not just community. So this is when we decided to bet on Sui. Also from our side, of the technical side, we said, okay, this is the consensus that we want. This is the best consensus. And it was even before Mysticity. It was when it was Narwhal and Bullshark. Still, it was the best. So with Mysticity is even better, right? And also we're going to have Mysticity V2 soon. So really, we believe that it's going to be the most important component in Web3. And we said we are going to be part of that, and we're going to use that, right, as the coordination layer. But if you think about the wallets and Ika, we're building an interoperability solution, right? And because of that, it doesn't matter where you write the smart contract. It's not like if you write, I don't know, your default protocol on Ethereum, then it's just Ethereum. With Ika, with the wallets, it's completely different, right? You can write a swap protocol between BTC and Sol, right? And you write all of that from a Swimove smart contract. So it's less important where you write the logic, the smart contract, from the builder perspective, because you can leverage any network that you want together. You can combine all of them together, and you can build whatever you want. So actually, you can also call smart contracts on Ethereum or on Solana from a D wallet, right? So you can do any of those options. So it means that Ika, although you can't write the smart contract, the logic on different networks, it still supports any network, right? From the product perspective, right? From the usability perspective. And even from the technical perspective, because you can sign transaction on different chains, right? And those transactions can be for smart contracts on different chains. So I really look on that as, the coordination layer is Sui. And the reason why, because we think it's the best tech, it's the best technology. And we also found out that it's the best ecosystem. We think that we have an amazing ecosystem and we love everybody. I know that sometimes people in Sui are a bit crazy, which is also a good thing. But at the end of the day, we feel like, we love everybody and everybody loves us, right? Even if there are some issues along the way, and we believe on the long term of that, right? So we believe that builders can come today, right? They can learn moves so fast, it will take them 2 weeks to do that. Even I believe even faster than EVM. And they can build stuff on Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, whatever they want. So it's actually the best place where you can build to any of those networks from one place.
By the way, I think this is actually a good place to mention. I just had last week, I had a call with a builder that he's a Web2 developer, and he started playing around with Solana. And then he heard about Ika and he saw the RFPs. And within about a month, he learned Swimove and actually built a demo that works on Bitcoin, demonstrating lending against native Bitcoin using with a Sui smart contract. So he was able to both learn Swimove and how to use Ika and build a demo that actually works on Bitcoin within about a month, which without any tooling, right? It's not like we have tooling available yet or anything. Like, this is not This is just to show, first of all, what kind of an enabler it is to be building on a language that is that intuitive, right? But also to show that this level of enablement by Ika, there are projects that built for multiple years in order to just do like the most simplest things on Bitcoin. And here you have a very robust infrastructure that allows you to do basically anything you want with Bitcoin, and you can get there without knowing Sui at all within a month, right? Which is, it is really just crazy to see. And I hope we're going to see more and more of that in the upcoming weeks and months.
Yep, amazing. I think that this is what you just said is actually what gives Ika a first mover advantage, like the way Ethereum had the first mover advantage in smart contracts. And Solana had, in a one way, this first mover advantage in this high throughput blockchain kind of thing. And Sui, I look at it like they are viewing it as a whole stack, not just for a blockchain. It's much more than that. And that's one thing that makes me really, interested to learn what the next thing happening in Ika. So now we were talking about what happened after Mainnet and all that. So looking forward, what are the most exciting things you can talk about Ika that could happen in the next, 3 to 6 months time frame?
So there are a lot of things that are going to happen. We have quite a few upgrades that are going to hit Mainnet very soon that will add more capabilities, more signing algorithms, basically universal support, but also huge improvements on performance, and let's call it performance design. So being able to design your solutions to be much more performant, much more efficient. I think the biggest things that are going to happen in the next few months are projects launching their protocols that are utilizing Ika on Mainnet in production. The biggest categories that we also, when we were building, when we launched, we knew these are going to be the first 3 big categories. One is programmable Bitcoin, the second is interoperable DeFi, and the third one is decentralized custody, right? So those 3 things are still the biggest kind of things that are drawing people into them. But we're also seeing a lot of interest specifically around RWAs and specifically around AI. Ika is solving some very, very fundamental problems for these 2 things that are becoming more and more prominent on blockchain and are probably going to be some of the biggest use cases of blockchain in the coming years. So a lot of the problems that, if you're thinking about an RWA platform, right? The first thing an RWA issuer needs to answer is, where am I going to issue the token, right? What chain? And that is, first of all, it's a question they shouldn't be asking at all, but it already requires them to start doing research, to understanding what are the pros, what are the cons, the fragmentation of liquidity, all of that. Ika solves all of that. And we're already seeing there are multiple teams that are thinking about different angles of how to build solutions on Ika to facilitate that for RWA issuers. There are a few things that I still can't talk about, but are going to be public in the upcoming weeks. But things around stable coins, there are a lot of things that people are very focused on in crypto right now, and Ika solves some major problems around them that we're very excited about, the things that are going to come to market, and yeah, hopefully very, very soon, but definitely in the next 3 to 6 months. I think this is what we're going to focus on.
I have to say that David said some of it. So we're working on a few improvements, and with the improvements, it sounds like it's small, but it's going to be huge. And some of it is going to be ready soon. Some of it will take a bit more time. And besides that, there are a few things that we're working on, right? Also with other partners, stuff that we can't share yet. But we believe those stuff, right, going to be built on Ika, right, and going to leverage the capabilities that we have from Ika and the wallets. And we can't share it yet, but it's going to be super exciting. It's going to, we hope that it's going to change some of the things that we have been doing in Web3 and crypto so far. And also we think that some of it is going to bring new users, new builders, new people to Web3, right? So we believe that it's going to influence a lot the space. So I know people, they have no passions and they want to know everything and they want to have the alpha. It will take some time, but I think the next 6 months are going to be super exciting.
Amazing. And I believe there will be some excitement for the community as well. So it's been a fantastic conversation. And one thing I always think about talking with, David or, Omer is to cover things about Ika. 1 hour is not enough because we still did not cover like a FHE thing you are building and a lot more. But hopefully we can cover it on a later day. But I think now is a good point to end the conversation. And so thank you so much for taking the time and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having us, Raj. First of all, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And we've been pretty absent from the public eye. We're working on a dozen things in parallel, but we're now starting to gradually come back and be more active. So we're happy to kick this off with you, and hopefully we'll be able to get some more content created and talk a bit more about some of the interesting things that are happening and are going to be launched soon. But yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. And yeah, you mentioned the FHE and some breakthroughs that we have. We can't say yet, but we're going to have super exciting thing related to that. People just feel like we're sharing a new breakthrough in cryptography, and it's hard to understand how you connect that, but eventually it will be connected.